Welcome to Create the Edge. In this episode, we're taking you virtually to Hong Kong. And our guest for this episode is Mr. Brad Emery and Benson Lau. Let me introduce Brad. Brad is the founder and CEO of the Aim Viva Travel Club and comes from the financial sector. Benson is Director of Sales and Marketing and co-founder of ZenCode Technologies and comes from a technology background that covers AI, blockchain, machine learning, and data analytics.
Thank you so much, Joy, and welcome once again to Create the Edge, Benson and Brad. I hope you both are having a lovely day, and a warm welcome to all of our listeners. So, I mean, there's just so much confusion, around every space regarding how a company can actually embrace, the blockchain, AI, machine learning, etc., to better provide a client with an enriching user experience. Now, there's so much noise and dissonance regarding the confusion that's going on as to, how exactly that can be done. So, I mean, my question to you, Benson, is like, all companies know, every single company knows that they need to innovate or literally be left behind. So, what exactly does ZenCode do? And how do you provide companies an edge in this world where there is so much noise? We would really request you to provide us perhaps 3 or 4 scenarios or strategic situations where companies need to use disruption and how ZenCode can help them.
Sure. Thanks so much, Joy, and thanks so much, Yusuf, for having me on this interview along with Brad. Just cover a little bit about ZenCode, just to give you a bit of background. We're an IT development and services company. We actually headquartered in Singapore. We have around 100 staff now around the region, mainly out of Bangalore, Chennai, Singapore, and Hong Kong. We do a lot of IT services for financial services industry, as well as for a lot of enterprise clients, telecommunications, retail, and so on. We help them to think in terms of what does the future hold. And I know there's a lot of noise around this where people think, hey, AI will solve everything. And there's other people who say AI will, replace all humankind. But I believe a little bit differently in how AI can be used and how it could work hand in hand with human and computer. One thing to note, and maybe I'll touch on to this beyond the technology, because hey, everyone sort of knows what blockchain is, everyone knows what AI is. But I think in order to address these, we need to go to the foundation. So the foundation is humans themselves, or we, are really good at understanding breadth of knowledge. We can see 20 different things and bring abstract ideas together, and computers will find it very difficult to do that. If you teach a computer to play chess, it doesn't mean they know how to cook, for instance. Whereas human beings can do both and try to look at linkages between chess and cooking, for instance. So I see a way where in the future, technology where AI, blockchain could work in such a way that it goes to a certain point. And at that certain point, a judgment from a human being could take over, where the human being would see all the options presented by the AI, because it's able to pull information from all different sources and present it to the human. And the judgment will be taken by the human being based on all this information. And I think it's dangerous if we allow computers to make all the decisions without some sort of rationality from a human being, especially in the place of where you look at certain places where there's social credit scores being done. These things could impact how humankind would evolve, especially in terms of bias towards certain groups of people. So that's just one thing I wanted to make note of as you spoke on these things, Yusuf. Yep. In terms of 3 areas, maybe that ZenCode helps out in right now. So we take these core ideas of having augmentation of humankind using AI, and we help companies like telecommunications company from Australia to develop a technology platform that brings information to the end user, presents all of that compliance information, all of that sales information in one area, gives them a little bit of a suggestion, but they can then take it from there to make that decision. So that's one case where we use AI, especially in that speed of the AI, being able to pull all that information together. The second area we would help other companies is being able to pull sales data from across the region. For instance, luxury accessory brand who's based in ASEAN. They have many shops around ASEAN, and everywhere they sell women's accessories, there's different shoe sizes involved. I mean, someone from Thailand would be somewhat different from a shop in Indonesia. So we would help them to make that decision on the sales branch manager position to order different shoe sizes in proportion based on their sales information that's from the past in that region. And that helps them to reduce inventory loss, but at the same time, the human being is still making the decision at the end of the day, because, hey, what happens if the human being notices that there's now a lot of more people coming through who have larger shoe sizes in that month? Then at least the human being can override that, whereas the computer can only see that limited set of data that it's given at any one point. So maybe these are sort of maybe two scenarios I will share, but I hope that gives you an idea.
Absolutely. I think you made a very, very, very pertinent point right at the end there. I mean, like, absolutely, like machine learning and computers can definitely sort of go through and churn through data, analyze it, and give you all the different attributes and, you know, what's the past trends, etc. But where it never can replace the human cognitive behavior or you know, the human touch, is where it can't actually think for itself. And that's where the, you know, the human touch is always going to be so important moving forward for years to come. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be, you know, a long, long time before we actually have computers thinking like human beings. So a very, very important and a very pertinent point that you made there right at the end, Benson. So thank you so much for that. So appreciate your inputs regarding it. So now, Brad, over to you. Brad, you've worked for MNCs quite literally all your life. You know, you've been you know, heading sales and business development and teams, you know, across multiple regions, you know, across different companies, you know, for years. So what made you leave all that behind and move into setting up AIMViva? What exactly is AIMViva, and how does it differ from other insurers, so to speak, in its space? And how does it actually provide users with an additional edge, so to speak, based on its competition?
Sure, I'll try and remember all of that. We start with myself. I got the startup bug back in 2000, so I actually moved to Hong Kong to work for the UK Prudential to start an internet bank. When Egg was being very successful in the UK, they wanted to replicate that in Asia. And then after about 7 months or so, we'd had the dot-com crash and they decided not to do it. So that was what brought me here in the first place. I've actually been involved in, I think, 4 corporate startups and a previous startup of my own where I burned through all my personal savings before I knew about things like fundraising and support from other people. So I had the bug. The last business that I worked in corporate was a startup. We brought Vitality, which is a wellness program from South Africa, to Asia with AIA. And I was on the regional management team of that business. And I came out of there with just a lot of ideas and a lot of concepts around things that you can do with insurance that have never been done. So AIMViva is built around a core of a travel insurance product, which is a very simple, very low-cost product, something that everybody thinks they understand, but actually they tend to be quite complex products because they're marrying things like medical care, death, accident, along with general insurance features like lost baggage and cancelled flights and those kinds of things. So when you get into the technicalities of the product, although it's a low-cost product that we all think we know, most people don't really understand what they've got when they bought it. And if you look at markets like the UK and the US, there's been a race to the bottom in price. But actually in most of Asia and places like Australia, the price is still quite high. And what I realized is that there's no real differentiation. How do people buy travel insurance? They buy it when they buy their flight by clicking on the little click box.
Yep.
Or they go to their agent or their broker and they say, I need some travel insurance, and they pretty much take what's offered. And maybe you get an email, maybe you get a letter with some policy details, but you don't get anything substantial. You're buying the trust that if something happens, the claim will be paid. And as I say, most people aren't even really sure what's covered in their policy. What we did with Aimviva is quite different. We've packaged a whole range of benefits that are not insurance benefits, but they are benefits that regular travelers will appreciate. So our core is the travel insurance and discounted lounge access, which we're currently doing with the cashback. And then the data SIM, which is a global SIM covering 130 countries. And then we have, travel discounts and car hire discounts and various other features, as well as some physical accessories that come with the pack that give a holistic package of things that help travelers when they're traveling frequently, particularly people like myself who travel on a budget and don't travel every time with Cathay Pacific or Singapore Airlines or British Airways, one of the big carriers. Sorry, that wasn't an advert for any particular carrier. So that's kind of what I set out to do. I guess the big question as to why did I decide to do that? When I first left AIA, I went consulting, and I found myself on one particular occasion in Singapore at the airport, and I needed to send a file to a client urgently. So I'm sat, and apologies to any Singaporeans, this isn't a dig at the country, just a particular situation that I got myself into. I'm trying to send the file, and the SIM card that I bought a local SIM card, and it had expired, so I couldn't use it. Not only could I not use it to send the file, I was unable to get onto the Wi-Fi at Changi Airport because they wanted to send me an SMS, and the SIM card had expired. So here I was with the work done, needing to get it to a client, and I couldn't get it out. And I just ended up very, very frustrated and very cross. And I ended up going to a lounge and paying to get in, and it was astronomically expensive. And then I was in such a rush that I didn't even get to have a beer and a sandwich. I had to run to the plane. So you come away from it and you go, look, this is not right. If I'd been working for a big company, this wouldn't have happened. The problem is that I'm self-employed. I'm new to working on my own. And I just haven't dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's because you don't know what you need to take care of. Clearly, data roaming is outrageously expensive, but it probably in that scenario would have been cheaper for me to go on to data roaming and send the message than it was to go to the lounge. But you get in that world of frustration. So that was kind of the pain point that triggered me to say, well, how can we make a travel insurance product that's better for regular travelers as opposed to frequent flyers? Hopefully that's answered all of your questions, Yusuf.
No, I think you've actually sort of, mentioned it perfectly. I think each and every one of us at some point in time has definitely, come across a situation where, we haven't had the opportunity to perhaps, be booked into an airline lounge because, certain flights, especially from Singapore, let's say, for example, if I'm going into KL or Penang, it's just shorter flights. They don't even have business class on there. So you don't even have that lounge access. And, I have 3 kids, and this is something which comes to mind. About 2 years ago when I was going to Penang, I didn't have lounge access, and I had to literally pay an arm and a leg, as you very rightly mentioned, Brad, because we actually had arrived a couple of hours prior to the flight, and they were absolutely not wanting to not do anything for 2 hours before they got onto the plane. So so literally had to pay an arm and a leg to get into an airline lounge, and it's great to see that Aimviva does provide travelers, who are not corporate travelers, perhaps, a bit of a sense of difference and a different alternative, so to speak, regarding their travel needs moving forward. So thank you very much for explaining that to us very nicely, Brad.
Yeah, it's very, very, very helpful because I can see a connect here between ZenCode and Aimviva. For example, Benson's gone from Singapore to Hong Kong and he's working. And he could, for example, be an ideal client given the regular amount of work he has to do between Jakarta, India, Bangalore, Chennai, Hong Kong. if he has to use data roaming, he's going to die. He's literally going to die. One of his contract money is going to go paying the data roaming bill. So,
Exactly.
that's my understanding, that AIMViva is a one-stop area where you have your travel insurance, you get a lounge access, which helps you do your work in peace, and sort of chill out and be protected. That's how I'm decoding the connect over here.
Just a note, I am a customer, and it's really good product.
Excellent.
I couldn't say that because of data privacy. I'm glad Benson did.
No, I think people like Yusuf and I also, we would be starting to travel soon, and I think AIMViva is going to be on the top of the list. So thank you, Brad. That was very clear, and thank you, Benson. We'd like to know one thing about the person behind the name, behind the persona, something that both you gentlemen are comfortable sharing online. So either of you can take it and start off.
Brad, do you want to go first? Or?
You want me to go? Actually, it's something interesting that I'm just sort of starting to share with people, and I'm finding people find it very interesting about me. I retired from rugby last year, and I'm a big guy, and I'm a Westerner, so people expect that I drink. I actually stopped drinking about 14, 15 months ago. And when I tell people, they seem to be very surprised. For me, it's a personal choice. It's not a religious decision. I've actually found my life much more balanced and much more stable since I made that decision. And certainly I have a lot more hours in the day to spend focused on the business as a result of that decisions. That's my bit of sharing for the day, I guess.
Thank you so much, Brad.
Yeah.
Thank you. Benson.
Benson, what about you?
Yeah, sure. So one thing people might not know is I do go to church on Sundays, but beyond that, I also help to do a lot of pro bono consulting for social enterprises. The reason for that is I believe there's something beyond this. So I want to help make sure that technology is being used in a good way, beyond just corporate and enterprise, at least see if there's a way to contribute back to society in that way. So yeah, I do try to help out. And recently there was a case where we helped to launch a mobile app for this social enterprise. It'll be up shortly, so I can't say too much about it, but yeah, it's something I'm really passionate about, having social impact in technology.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Benson. That is so heartening. It's one of the very first and few times I think Yusuf and I have had the opportunity to talk to, I'll use the word technologist, who is actually taking technology for community or people. Humanizing. You're actually humanizing. I love two, three things. One is you've said the human touch in technology is never going to go. So I love hearing that, because sitting on the quadrant of humans are the it. We have to find our own. We have to grow our own. Technology is a facilitator. That helps. And this bit about mobile apps and technology to help take something that was, traditional into the new era, if I may call it. Excellent. And Brad, thank you on behalf of Create the Edge. You're actually showing us with, your own personal experience in insurance. You faced what happened to you at Singapore airport. You turned that idea into a practical reality of a business. And there you have a client sitting with you and talking and advocating for you. Nothing could be better. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Benson and Brad.
Thank you
so much.
Nice. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Benson and Brad. Appreciate you joining us in our discussion here. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys. See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.